like to welcome everyone to our City of Little Rock Board of Directors special call meeting. Also want to welcome those that are at home and watching and streaming online. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Richardson. Director Peck.
Here.
Director Hines.
Present.
Director Lewis.
Here.
Director Wyrick.
Present.
Director Campiris. Director Phillips.
Present.
Director Adcock.
Present.
Vice Mayor Webb. Mayor Scott.
Present.
Yes.
I'm now going to ask City Director Andrea Lewis to please give us the invocation.
One bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this day that you have given us. We want to ask for understanding and clarity, transparency, and give us all the knowledge that we need to work together as a city. That's leadership all the way down to our citizens. We want to continue the progress, and we ask that you enable us to do this all together with full understanding, and we have a great, successful board meeting this evening. Amen.
Amen. May we all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director Hines, I believe you want to discuss one of the items today.
Yes, Mayor. I'm going to ask that Resolution 2 be deferred till next week. There are a couple items that still are not quite correct in it and haven't been able to be settled before we got here today.
Sure, is there a motion? That's a motion. I understand that to be a motion. Is there a second to defer item number 2? Do you want to put a timeline?
Just our meeting next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday's meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Item number 2 will be deferred until the next meeting on, I believe, August the 6th. All right. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the agenda. Please read the items.
Are they separate or?
Separate. One of the special called items.
Okay. So just, got it.
Excuse me, 1 second for the parliamentarian. What you say? We're going to do the second reading and third reading separate, so we'll start, Madam Clerk.
A resolution is set August 6, 2024 as the date of the public hearing regarding the proposed increase of taxi fare rates within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
Move to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. We will now approve the taxi fare increase. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 3 for the second time.
It's a resolution.
Well,
You'll have to vote on that at some point.
I believe I have Vice Mayor Webb is hand is called.
Mr. Mayor, is it now the appropriate time to review the amendments?
Yes, and actually that amendment the amendments are, if we're talking about the resolution,
Yes.
is that the resolution this third? Is that for the funding resolution?
Resolution is number 3, which is where we are.
All right. Yes, ma'am. And I know, yes.
Triple lined, and there's a few on the table down there.
Gotcha. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. I've talked about the wish to have some amendments to get some money for infrastructure and a couple of other things based on conversations with my constituents and other people from around the city. And so what you got earlier this afternoon was an amendment which would take $5 million out of a different category, put $3 million into money for equipment for public works that would be specific for improving our trash collection. And I think we all got the memo from Acting Manager Cox last Friday that I think, confirms the need we have for that. Early on in our discussions of the tax, we talked about, there was $16 million in there to cover city buildings, and that was removed. And I would like for us to put $2 million back into that to be on the safe side. And then the third amendment is for the amendment to amend Director Compuris's amendment and to say that we would put the first $1 million into surplus and put anything else into infrastructure. Because while we talk about the infrastructure increase in raw dollars, we all know that in reality, it's not an increase because of the cost of infrastructure. And the final amendment is just to sort of set up the parameters for the oversight committee, modeled on hopefully what we had last time. And those are, so I would like to move adoption of those amendments.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I do see Director Hines' hand.
Yes, Mayor, the only objection I have to the amendments, and I would offer a friendly amendment, is to change where the $5 million is coming from and to, I think we've got enough deals circling with economic development between the port and other locations in the city that to take it out of the economic development funds would be short-sighted. I would offer a friendly amendment. Can we take those out of the outdoor baseball complex? It's a much less percentage, lower that from 60 to 55 million.
Yes, sir. Understand that'd be a friendly amendment. Mr. Parliamentarian, since what's the order, because there's a motion on the floor.
We don't have a motion on the floor yet because there hasn't been a second. So do you need to have a second? Then he can offer the friendly amendment. The mover and the second can decide whether they accept it. If not, you'll need a vote.
I'll second, and then I'll offer a friendly amendment to change the reallocation from the Economic Development Fund to coming out of the outdoor sports complex and lower it from 60 to 55 million.
Vice Mayor, do you accept the friendly amendment to your amendment in changing, your amendment originally was to transfer $5 million from the Economic Development Fund into solid waste infrastructure funding. There was a second by Director Hines, and he offered a friendly amendment. Do you accept the friendly amendment?
I'll accept the amendment.
Members of the board, just to make sure everyone's clear, there's a motion and a second for amendment. A friendly amendment was offered to Vice Mayor Webb. Vice Mayor Webb has accepted the friendly amendment. She initially wanted to reduce the $5 million from economic development by $5 million to go to infrastructure, solid waste equipment and infrastructure. Director Hines offered a friendly amendment. Instead of taking the $5 million for solid waste infrastructure from economic development, to do it from the outdoor sports complex that'll be near Southwest Little Rock and the Outlet Mall area is what's contemplated at this time, based on a recommendation from both Director Hines and Director Wyatt. There's a question.
I'm trying to catch up with Director Webb's amendments. We have a document here that speaks to, I'm assuming, some changes, and one of the changes that I see, the first one I see, I guess, is capital tax expenditures, and it says $89 million, and then under I, it shows 80 million strategic infrastructure development. Is that still the right number? 80 million?
The only thing that I had to amend that is what's in red.
Okay, so that was my next question. So under the item V, it shows 3 million equipment for trash collection. And that number is 3 million? Because I thought I heard Lance say something about 5 million.
Let me just restate it. I may be helpful to you, Director Wyatt.
Okay.
This is what's stated in red, and it does read a little, it's kind of a challenge to read because it's done in written form when we're talking about numbers. But I'll keep it simple for everyone to understand it this way. Vice Mayor Webb desires to amend the funding resolution to reduce $5 million from the Economic Development Fund and to take $3 million of the $5 million transfer towards solid waste. That's $3 million. You'll see a page that says $3 million. Then there's another page that says $2 million, and that's for equipment. So that's the total $5 million. That's what she is desiring. That's what you'll see in red. It sometimes can be a challenge to read it in written form. But basically, she wants $5 million to go towards solid waste, as well as the solid waste fund, as well as solid waste equipment. Director Hines says, I'm okay with transferring $5 million from somewhere. Instead of the Economic Development Fund, he wants to take it from the outdoor sports complex that'll be more than likely be in Southwest Little Rock near the outlet malls, which is west of 430. And that's what he's desiring to do. She has accepted. There's a motion on the floor, a second, for that amendment.
When do we get the answer that that's acceptable to remove from the outdoor park?
Right now, we're about to take, if you all say yes.
Are we going to get someone to tell us that that's appropriate to do? Or are we just guessing that it's okay to take it from there?
No, I think we all know, we've gotten these numbers from Sports Facilities Associates. That is a preliminary number, but it's very close. In the event that we need more money, number one, as Director Hines would tell you, is that if we say all we got is $55 million, figure it out, they'll have to do what we call value engineering to do $55 million. But if I was a betting man or woman, just like we thought the price for the micro home village was going to be X, we had to come back here for Y because of the economy. We'll never have a pinpoint number. So I think we're fine here, and I support both. I support the amendment, the friendly amendment that was offered to Vice Mayor Webb in this context. Yes, but I'm gonna get to you, Director Computers.
Your answer is that if we take the $5 million away from the sports complex, that we still can build it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, just like I said when we were building the Broadway Bridge, and I asked Madison Murphy when he was on the RDOT, can we not get a nice bridge for $50 million when the county judge insisted on adding an extra $22 million in basket handles to it? And he assured me we could get a nice bridge for $50 million. I think we can get a nice outdoor sports complex for 55.
So here's the deal. I live in Southwest Little Rock in the Mableville area, and I can't tell you how many Mableville projects had reduction or projects went away because in the end game, when we got to the end, they didn't have funding. And so this is predicted to go in Ward 7, somewhere close to Bass Pro. And I don't want it to be another one of those projects where they say, well, we don't have enough money for that.
Well, I can assure you the difference in 55 and 60 million, we could put a price tag on 70 million, and I bet you we could build it for 70. It's really a number. We're going to get a nice sports. I've seen what's been built for 26 and 30 million. We can get a nice sports complex. And that's been in recent times. You can go down and look what Hot Springs did on theirs, and what we're building is bigger. But I think we're still going to get a very nice complex for that. I think it would be short-sighted for us to cut our nose to spite our face. At the end of the day, the sports complex and the Economic Development Fund are all economic development. We're trying to get people from outside Little Rock into our city to work, live, and play. So, I just, that to me is a small number to put in there based on that versus cutting 30 or 40% of our Economic Development Fund, going from.
Well, basically, all we've seen is a concept.
Right.
For either one of the sports arenas.
It may very well be we figure out we can do it for 50 million. I don't know. But I do know that wherever we set the bar, that money will get spent. And you know, I think we've also got some contingency funds and reserve funds like we've always had that we could use, because I think that would be considered a citywide project.
Director Wyrick, we're going to get it built in Southwest Little Rock. As long as we get everything done, I think this is the first step that we can start talking with engineers and contractors on how to get it done. I agree with Director Hines. Director Campiris?
Well, the amendment that I offered up, I should have called the B.J. Wyrick amendment. Because this is exactly the reason I said we needed contingency over the tax, so that when we get ready to build this, there's money to make sure that BJ doesn't have to come back and say year after year after year. There was a project that we promised in 1862 or whenever the last time we screwed up that we need to get done. And
I live the dream, so.
I know, but that's the whole reason for it. And so I support what Kathy's done, and I appreciate what Lance has done, and I'll call the question.
Second.
All right, for those who are unaware of what's going on, there's been amendment, a friendly amendment, and the question's been called to change the resolution, number one. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The resolution has been amended to transfer $5 million from the outdoor sports complex proposed for Southwest Little Rock, west of 430 near the outlet malls, to be split up, $3 million towards solid waste fund, $2 million towards solid waste equipment. That is before the members of the board for the resolution. Members of the board, we do have, and we have a number of different cards, I think it's probably more prudent to get the funding resolution taken care of before we go to the cards.
Mayor, can I make one point for Director Warwick, please?
Yes.
Director Warwick, on page 12, Director Webb has added to the resolution a section 13 that points out that there will be no modifications of this resolution without a specific resolution of the Board of Directors that amends this resolution. And I think part of that was to make sure that we didn't just go to another project, that it had to be a vote of the entire board.
Well, and I appreciate her doing that, because I've been told time and time again, a resolution can be changed.
You can, but it's supposed to be amended, and this one is a little bit different than the past because it didn't have that clause in there.
Thank you, Kathy.
Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. And just, I'm sorry, but one more clarification. The $5 million that we adopted, just now it was $3 million for solid waste and $2 million that went back into the fund that originally started with $16 million to deal with issues in city-owned buildings. So $3 million trash collection, $2 million for the city, and that's on page 9 where it has that $2 million. That went from $16 million to 0. And now to 2. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
You already took a vote. You already took a vote, and then
Already took a vote?
on the resolution when it passed.
Yeah, on the amendment. So now let's reread the resolution, I guess,
As amended.
as amended.
A resolution to state the uses of the 1% sales and compensating use tax funds upon approval of the tax levy by voters at a special election to be held on November 5th, 2024, and for other purposes as amended.
Is there a motion? Oh, was it? No, it's red. All those in favor, please say aye.
Whoa. You need a motion to pass the resolution. The motion was to amend it, and that
Is there a
was,
motion to pass the resolution?
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Webb, Director Hines, and all the board members. for getting us on the funding resolution step forward. Do appreciate each and every one of you and your hard work. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 4 for the second time, and then we'll go towards these.
You
No.
said these, you're talking about the agenda?
Yes,
Public comment?
yes. We'll read everything the second time, and then
An
second
ordinance-
and third time, actually. We'll do that.
An ordinance to levy an additional 3/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for general operational purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1st, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. Second reading.
Read the others too, and we'll come back to.
An ordinance to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for the November 5th, 2024, on the question of whether to levy an additional 3/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general operational purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, to prescribe others that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. An ordinance to levy an additional 5/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general capital purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. An ordinance to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for November 5th, 2024, on the question of whether to levy an additional 5/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general capital purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, and to provide that the levy shall expire on December 31st, 2034, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. Second reading.
Is there a motion to go to third reading on item number 4?
Yeah, I moved to suspend the rules and place on third reading, Mayor, but I thought you said we'll do.
We are.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and second to go to third reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Present.
Ayes have it for the third reading.
An ordinance to levy an additional 3/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general operational purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. An ordinance to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for November 5th, 2024, on the question of whether to levy an additional 3/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general operational purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. An ordinance to levy an additional 5/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general capital purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. An ordinance to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for November 5th, 2024, on the question of whether to levy an additional 5/8 sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for the general capital purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1, 2025, and to provide that the levy shall expire on December 31st, 2034, to prescribe matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. Third and final reading.
So members of the board, we've had 3 readings on all of the ordinances. We'll now go transition to the agenda cards that we have. So once we're done with the agenda cards, we'll then take separate votes on items 4, 5, 6, and 7 that have had 3 readings. And we have quite a few cards. Depending on how long we may create a time limit, as you know, from the agenda standpoint, but we'll get started first. But we may have to entertain 15 minutes before or 15 minutes for both for and against, but we'll get to that if it seems that way, that we need to curtail the time to do the other agenda. All right, we'll start first off with Joshua Baxter. So everyone in the audience, we've had now 3 official readings. Once we have the communication on the agenda card, so if you filled it out, as I shared, depending on time, we may create a time limit for this. dependent upon the leisure of all of us, but want to make certain that you're aware of what's going on. So, Mr. Baxter, you'll come, then the next, we'll do 4, then we'll do against, and we'll see how long we are here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Mayor. For the record, is this coming through? Joshua Baxter, reside at 3600 Foxcroft. It's a pleasure to be here, and I know this has been a very contentious topic, and I've spoken with many of you all about it, as well as those out here as citizens. My day job is as an attorney in state government. I also have a variety of volunteer roles, and before speaking in favor of this, I thought long and hard and wanted to make sure that by speaking in favor of this sales tax, I was truly speaking my heart, and I am. There's 3 points. I'm going to try to keep this to about 3 or 4 minutes, again, in light of everyone's time. First thing I want to talk about is the reality of taxes. The second is the current state of our city, at least as I perceive it. And the third is a gentle reminder on your duty as city directors. First thing, taxes, like death, right? None of us like them, but I think as divided as our city sometimes still can be, unfortunately, or at least is perceived to be, I think that nearly all of us, if not all of us in this room, can agree that we have to face them. And I think the reality of our city at this point is that we need the funds. And I think the mayor has made a clear argument over the past 2 years that it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I would like to point everyone, and I think everyone in this audience, especially those on the city board, are familiar with these presentations. But if we compare the city sales tax that we currently have with peer cities, both within our state and within our region, even with this increase, we're still just slightly left of the bell curve. Second thing, I did a little research for this, and someone please correct me if my numbers are wrong. The median income, again, the median, in Little Rock in 2023 is $66,565. $66,565. If we look at the take home, that's plus minus $48,000. Disposable income after we pay for lodging, food, insurance, gas, 24 grand. Assuming that we spend 4/5, 80% here in Little Rock, that's about $20,000 that we're spending. 1% of $20,000 is $200 a year. $200 a year averages to less than $20 a month. That's less than a car wash subscription. That's less than a family Spotify account. And that's right on par with a standard Netflix account. If we care about our city and we care about Little Rock being the best city, the capital city of Little Rock, this is something that we all 200,000 plus minus of us, have to vote for. Second point, current state of our city. I remember as a month-old, dad's from Kansas, mom's from rural Kansas. They moved here, and thankfully they brought me along. And I remember driving out west. And Lance, you know this well. Little Rock Christian back in the day was Walnut Valley, where Access Schools is on Breckenridge. And I remember going out on Thursdays, I was homeschooled, and we go to Parkway Village and visit the old people, because all my grandparents were outside the city. And I remember how far it was out there. Well, we have a different situation in 2024. And regardless of where we live, it's not just a tale of two cities, it's a tale of many cities in Little Rock. Whether we're out west, down south, Foxcroft, Sturbridge, Colony West, it doesn't matter. We have to care about downtown, and we have to care about placemaking. And this sales tax is going to do something to reinvigorate and inspire our downtown, as the mayor has much more eloquently than I said before. I don't think it requires reading these books, Walkable City, Suburban Nation, Sprawl Repair Manual, to know that we need investment in our city, and we need it desperately. Unlike, unfortunately, Northwest Arkansas, we don't have a Fortune 1 company. We don't have billionaires and the children of billionaires and the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren to invest their own funds in our city. It's something that we as the city must take on. My third and final point, you all know much better than I in official, even if part-time, but full-time responsibility roles with the city, whereas I merely as a volunteer on the Planning Commission once a month. Regardless, in these capacities, we know that sometimes we have to vote not what necessarily we would like, but what's in the best interest of our constituents. I personally, I think like everyone else out here, would love a reality in which there are no taxes. And I would also love a reality in which neither I nor my loved ones die. But death and taxes are a reality. And this 1% sales tax increase, provided that the funds will be judiciously, equitably, fairly, and clearly apportioned and used, is a benefit to every single resident and visitor in our city, and it's the only way that Little Rock will reach its potential. So whether you're from a ward like Ward number 5 that might, in the aggregate, be less in favor, or someone from Ward number 1 or Ward number 3 or 4, I believe it is y'all's duty as city directors, regardless of what you think personally, to at least vote in a way that puts this initiative on the ballot in November for we, the people, to decide. Thank you so much for your time, and here's to our city.
Thank you. Mr. Osiris Bali.
Hey, yo, what's up? I'm here to speak basically on behalf of the people who don't understand what this sales tax increase will really mean. First off, sales tax is a regressive tax. So that means that more of the working class and low-income households are going to spend a bigger percentage on these consumer goods that will be taxed with the sales tax than these wealthy, high-income households. And I don't think that that's fair to put the burden of the sales tax on the people who make the least yearly. Our communities would be safer if we had more jobs, education, and a living wage, and universal health care. So when we talk about the city budget and the sales tax increase, I want to think about ways how we can reallocate money from programs, well, not programs, I'm sorry, from departments that neglect the civic programs such as neighborhood-based programs, parks and recreation, healthcare, these things that matter to me. Over-policing does not make our community safer, and I know that this sales tax increase will help to increase the police department's budget once again. It's been a trend since the 90s that the police department continuously gets more and more money, and with the sales tax increase, you're giving more and more money to the police officers once again. And I don't believe that that's a great way to go with this community. I stand in here with a number of people who work for numerous nonprofit organizations, numerous community programs who could actually use this funding with the sales tax increase, but I don't see the money going in that direction. I see the money going in the direction of harassment, investigative traffic stops, racial profiling, violence, impunity, and imprisonment. And I'm here to speak for the community first. In order to protect the community, we must have community accountability and community safety. The city is prioritizing the safety of the people. In this case, we'll be talking to us about the culture of police misconduct in this city. For years, the leadership in our city has shown an unwillingness to penalize the Little Rock Police Department for corruption and misconduct. And once again, we're rewarding them with more money through this sales tax increase. So instead of rewarding character failure, in order to restore character, we need to recommit to the plight of everyday people. This sales tax increase needs to recommit itself to refunding the community and unbundling the money that has been thrown away year after year since the 90s to the LRPD. We need to stop using this department as tax collectors and traffic patrollers. We need to stop using cops as a way to manufacture crime in the city, and we need to stop using our everyday people, our citizens, and our residents as an ATM for this city. because this is exactly what this tax sales increase will be doing. We know that, like I say, working class people are the ones that are going to be buying the most of these consumer goods. And so the brunt of it will be on us. So to me, what unbundling the police department's budget would look like is a strategic reallocation of funds from traditional law enforcement activities to more community-based programs and services that address the root causes of crime and support public well-being. This is a process that begins with a thorough audit of the current police budget and also the current city's budget, and where we're spending that money, looking at ways where we can reduce it. And then the next step is to invest funds into the city, reinvesting funds into the city community services, including mental health support, affordable housing, education, and social services. These are the programs that aim to reduce the demand for police intervention by addressing the issues of homelessness, substance abuse, and mental health crises at their source. Furthermore, investments into community-led safety initiatives such as violence interruption programs, our Boys and Girls Clubs, our after-school care programs, our summer programs. We have a budget every year, and I'm grateful that the city does this because every city in Arkansas doesn't do it. But we have a summer youth employment program that employs 16 to 21-year-olds. Some of this money from the sales tax increase could go to funding a year-round youth employment program. That's the way we can put a curb on violence. By shifting the focus from punitive measures to preventative and supportive strategies, cities can enhance their overall public safety and promote long-term social equity. And I know the sales tax increase will be used to build an outdoor complex and go to some infrastructure, but the reality is it's not going to make it a walkable community for all of the wards. Ward 2 still has a lot of work that needs to be done, and we need to work out some more ways on how we can move some funds and reallocate it to support the community in Ward 2 where I'm currently residing. So I'm asking the city directors to take a look at this budget and figure out a way where we can stop promoting militarization in our police department, more investigative traffic stops, and think about ways where we can reallocate this funding to support families, children, the youth, the communities, the nonprofit programs around our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bali. Ms. Kimberly Lee.
Good evening, Mayor Scott and Board of Directors. So we're here again, and I'm not going to be before you long, but it is very hard as a resident to come to you all to ask for things that we desire. I'm coming to ask you to support the sales tax. As someone who's born, raised, worked, live in Ward 7 in Little Rock, Arkansas, I want to see our city progress, improve, attract new businesses, be competitive to other cities. I travel to a lot of other cities, and there's things that happen and go on that I know Little Rock could do. But we know the only way we can do these things and have these things is by way of a sales tax. And as the first gentleman said, no, nobody wants to pay extra money. But that's the city we live in. We live here, we work here, we play here. We have to pay to be here. We have to pay to have improvements. We have to pay to have the entertainment, the life that we want. And I believe that this sales tax would get us there. I know Southwest Little Rock is in need of a lot, especially Ward 2 and Ward 7. And there's not enough money that you have in this sales tax that can improve all the needs in those two wards. But I know that if we don't pass it, we won't get some of the things that we need. I would rather have some improvements than no improvements because I live there, I work there. I continue to want to be there because I love my community. I love my residents, I love my city. I could go to another city, I could go to another state. But the things that I see in other cities and states, we can have here. How can we be the capital city of Arkansas, but we don't want to improve in our city? We have to invest in our city. And you all have to learn how to take your personal opinions out of this. You have done meetings with different wards. Unfortunately, people did not show up. I feel like if you really wanted your voice to be heard, or if you really wanted to understand the purpose of the sales tax, those meetings were where residents should have been to understand that and to ask those questions. But now we're here. And I believe that we need to be active and engaged all times so we can have the true understanding of how we can grow our city, how we can move our city. So I hope you all, and I've spoken to some of you on the phone, and I know where some of you had your concerns. We're not gonna always get everything we want. But do we really want to continue to come back year after year, meeting after meeting? Because we have to eventually vote on a sales tax. That's the only way we're gonna move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Ms. Don Jeffrey.
My name is Dawn Jeffrey, and I'm a member of Ward 6 and a community organizer. I was going to start somewhere, but just to address the concerns, Mr. Baxter, you're right. Most people do not want to pay taxes, but a lot more people would be more willing to pay the taxes if they had a choice in where they put their money. I don't care about my tax dollars going to education. I don't care about my tax dollars going to housing, towards increased mental health programs, but that's not what this tax increase is going to. A large majority of it is still, again, funding our police. So I'm here to speak clearly against it. And in our current budget, the police receive 27.4%. And many would hear that and think it's not much at all, but that's 27.4% versus 2.4% to housing and neighborhood programs versus 3.6% to parks and recreation. And even to the fire department that saves lives daily, they're only receiving 18.8% of that money. And I visited after the storms happened. We went out there and served food in front of a fire department that had been torn to shreds. So they need money. I'm not against them having money. If this goes to the ballot and it passes, well, if it passes here tonight and it goes to the ballot, that's not the end of it. The people have the right. And you're right. We do have the right to vote. We do have the right to vote, and we should vote. And I hear your voice, your community needs more. They have the power to rebudget that money. Ask them to rebudget the money. That's all we're here to do, is to simply ask you to take pause to reallocate the money. Instead of giving more money to police, refund communities. We've asked this city for accountability. We've asked this city for accountability when it comes to police. Incidents are happening, and many of you say you empathize with these incidents that are happening, people that are being killed by police, people who are experiencing police violence. But you continue to vote, and not just one time. You voted several times to increase the police budget. And we continue to call again after 2 lives have been lost in Arkansas, and nationally, Sonia Massey was murdered. We continue to call for you to reinvest in communities. And this city has to hold the police accountable, and you haven't done that. We've created a citizens review board. When we asked you for accountability, your response was creating a citizens review board that is inactive and ineffective. And that just won't stand. And I agree that we do need money in our cities, but we need to decide where that money goes. And so all of these positions, 4 positions, will be opening up this year. That includes Ward 4 and all at-large positions. The rest of the positions, including the mayor, will be up for grabs in 2026. I don't care if no one knows you. I don't care if you have a political background, but if you want to see your changes in your community and you believe you're the best to advocate for changes in your community, I encourage you to run. Everyone has I'll say mostly everyone has the opportunity to run because they still exclude some people. You have the right to run, and I encourage you to run. 4 or 5 people run for positions. Some of them have been in these positions too long, and they have refused to do anything that we've asked to make a step towards accountability when it comes to police and reinvesting in our communities. We can't even get a bathroom out at West End Park. And I've talked to you about it. I do agree. I do agree. But for years prior to you, I begged Doris Wright to get us a bathroom out there. These are things that matter. These are things that reduce crime. And if you are truly vested in improving the quality of life for all residents and not a specific entity, then I ask you tonight to pause the vote, reconsider the allocation, which you have the power to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffrey. Shamia Woods.
Good afternoon. As you said, my name is Shamia Woods. I'm a resident at 1402 North Pierce. I am also a Parks and Recreation Commissioner, but most importantly, I'm a resident of Little Rock, and I chose to move here from Faulkner County and Conway County. Now, I did that because I have an amazing job, and I get to work, and it's exceptional in Little Rock, and I got tired of driving 50 minutes. Then, and I understand that's a luxury, then I get to live here, and that has been a blessing for me. As someone who, it's a full circle moment for me. I started out maybe a little over 20 years ago playing athletic basketball, amateur basketball, and I used to play at places like Park, Positive Atmosphere Reaches Kids. I also used to play in the Hoop Fest every summer. And those experiences led me to get a full ride in college, again, a luxury, but it's something that I worked for. It took me to play basketball internationally, and then I decided to move back to Arkansas. But the cool thing that I get to do is I talk to people every single day about why I need you to work for my company in Little Rock. I work for a company that is based in a city the size, about half the size of Little Rock, in Carmel, Indiana. And we also have an office in Eagan, Minnesota, which is the size of Conway, Arkansas. And I always struggle with getting people to choose of those 3 locations. They tell me no to Little Rock. They'd rather go to a smaller town because they have experiences, or they have places for their children to go outside and play, or to go indoors and play. And back to me being someone who was the benefit of these things, I also decided to give back to my community, and I coach a 3rd and 4th grade athletic amateur basketball team. I live in Little Rock. Every weekend, every other weekend, I and my parents drive to Conway, Northwest Arkansas, Tulsa, Dallas, Nashville, Memphis, Bryant, Cabot. I live where in Little Rock. I won't say never, I rarely play tournaments with my girls in Little Rock because we don't have a sports complex to house the 10, 20, 30, sometimes 50 teams that play in these tournaments. And I think it would be a great idea to have something like that here for us, because so many people of my generation and probably beyond, probably people in this room, you pay $25, $30, $40, $50. I have the luxury, again, of being a coach, but does anybody in here have children that play competitive sports, nieces, nephews, grandchildren? You easily pay $50, $100 for a pass, don't have other children, other grandchildren. You might be out of $400 easily, but that money is going to places that you do not work, live, and play. So I'm not here to bash anybody for their opinions or how they feel about the sales tax initiative, but as someone who literally talks to that working class that you mentioned every single day, people tell me no to Little Rock because they don't really have a good standard of living, or they choose places that are half our size, or they'd rather live somewhere else and commute to Little Rock if they do choose our location. So I think supporting the sales tax initiative is a no-brainer. Even outside of my Parks and Recs role, I would still support the initiative. Frankly, I moved to Little Rock to support this city because I found myself giving my money to Pulaski County versus the counties that I lived in. So I think there's a lot of positives packed into this plan. I hear you on the police part, but I spend every month in Parks and Recs meetings, and I looked at the budget, and I could be missing it, so I'm here to be educated, but I don't see a lot of that money going in the places you say. I see it going to experiences for your children, for my nieces, my nephews, my 3rd and 4th grade basketball team, who I think would love to play here. And I have a lot of girls from the Little Rock School District on my team. So I'm just asking that you guys consider the parks aspect of it, because that is something that would benefit your children, would benefit the standard of living, and would speak to those positive experiences in eliminating crime in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. B.J. Woods. Mrs.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Good to see some of you all again. I am B.J. Woods. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm B.J. Woods, Executive Director of the Village Place in Ward 1. I remember many faces from you all being supportive as we got our community garden off the ground, and so I'm hopeful that you all will be as receptive to this feedback today. So when I'm thinking about the sales tax, I'm thinking about why do we need it? And we need it, as many people have mentioned, to improve things or to see things in our community that we don't already have. And so as Osiris, Don, and Don mentioned, I'm not here to say no to the sales tax. I'm here to implore you to reconsider the ways in which it'll be allocated. And I want to share, so in my capacity as Executive Director of the Village Place, we have connected with thousands of residents around Ward 1 area, the Quapaw area, and the Wright Avenue area. So I want to share direct feedback. We have about 700 feedback from about 700 residents, and survey feedback from approximately 300 residents. And I just want to take this opportunity to share some of that feedback, because I think it'll answer the question around why reallocate the funds from police and put them into community programs. And we've been collecting data since 2018. So in 2018, we talked to 129 residents. What we heard was that parents want to be more involved. Parents want to be able to have community programs that are accessible to them. So not right in the middle of the day. They also want to be able to participate in trainings. In 2019 through 2020, in response to COVID, we did another survey. And to summarize, we had 85 respondents, and 27.6 respondents said that they were most concerned about health and safety, but not in regard to wanting more police presence, but they were more concerned about health and safety and welfare in the event that they are in contact with police. So they were not looking for more police support, they were looking for support to shelter them from police, if that makes sense. So also, we learned that 64.71% of the respondents wanted the Village Place to pivot in the direction of providing more community programming. So again, 2018, 2019, 2020, our community is saying more accessible community programs, students, parents, community members. In 2023, we asked the question, if you had a magic wand, would you want to change, would you want to change anything about your community? If so, what would you change? The feedback trends included a reduction in the homeless population, the way the neighborhoods look, and better schools and extracurricular programming for youth. I didn't see anything about police in any of our feedback. Police presence, feeling unsafe, none of that. June 2024, here recently, we had another iteration of feedback. We had 54 respondents. One of the questions was, currently the state and governor are focused on prison expansion and plan to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build a new prison facility and add more beds to current facilities. Please select the area that you feel has the greatest need for those funds. Over 75% of the people that answered said they wanted the money to go into our daycares and schools. Nothing about police, nothing about police presence or having the money allocated to the Little Rock Police Department. The next question that we asked in 2024 on this recent survey is, in which ways do you think your community could better support youth and young people? Most people said more access to mental health support and services. Lastly, I just want to share that this past Saturday, we had a community event and we had hundreds of people in the facility. And the question was, what community issues would you like to address as part of a dream space? And the responses were racial tension, community involvement, more community involvement, generational trauma and separation, and unbiased togetherness. All of these things we facilitate in our community programming. So I just wanted to share some direct feedback from people that are in the community about what we want to see and what we hope that, the ways in which we hope that you all will use the money from the sales tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Mr. Samuel Ellis.
Hello, my name is Samuel Ellis. I had the pleasure and joy of growing up here in Little Rock, Arkansas. After college, I took a job as a professional whitewater raft guide in Colorado, Buena Vista, on the Arkansas River. I was lucky enough to live and work in the tourism industry, taking guests and families out on whitewater expeditions and getting to really showcase the outdoors. I got to see how that outdoor industry can really explode the population and the tourism money coming in to a city. Even though that was a seasonal service, it was amazing to see a small mountain town quadruple in population, even for a short season, and that did not include any of the skiing. Everyone thought I was crazy for moving back to Little Rock after working professionally. The real answer is my mom told me to get a real job, which I did, but I also was really drawn back to the outdoors of Little Rock. I also realized that everything I loved about Colorado, the rock climbing, the whitewater boating, the kayaking, the camping, the hiking, I can do all of that in Little Rock, Arkansas. The only difference is the cost of living is much cheaper and the traffic is nowhere near as bad as I have lived out there. Traveling as an adult to other popular outdoor cities, which I call business research, and realizing that Little Rock is very comparable to Asheville, North Carolina, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and even Buena Vista, Colorado. It has everything that those cities are known for and that young, active families seek and move to. Instead of leaving Little Rock and moving to one of these outdoor cities where it's known for outdoor recreation, a healthy, active lifestyle, and for young families, I decided to stay in Little Rock and bring those activities and services and lifestyle that I admire about those cities back home to make Little Rock better. So in 2017, I personally invested in Little Rock. I started a small business in outdoor recreation and tourism. I bought 3 kayaks with my life savings, had to keep my day job, and I was taking people out on weekends and after work until I made enough money to buy a 4th kayak and then a 5th kayak. Now I have grown that from 2017, those 3 kayaks, into 3 outdoor recreation service rentals and tour outfitters locations. And for the last 8 years, I have personally taken thousands of locals and tourists on guided kayaking trips, pontoon boat tours of the Arkansas River, of the Little Maumelle River, guided bicycle tours of historic downtown Little Rock, and renting kayaks and bikes and paddleboards in the heart of the capital of the state of Arkansas. The one comment I hear the most from tourists is, I really underestimated Little Rock. The one I hear most from locals is, I had no idea this was in my backyard, and I now have a whole new perspective of my own city. All this to say is Parks and Recs is not only a huge impact on quality of life for Little Rock locals, but also a huge impact on bringing in tourism dollars. These are the reasons that people want to go to outdoor cities for the things that we already have. We just need to utilize them and have them available for everyone. My personal business mission statement of Rocktown River Outfitters is to showcase the parks, waterways, and bike trails that have shaped our city and make them safe and accessible for locals, tourism, and all families. I really think the city shares the same qualities of this mission statement, and that's why I'm in support of this tax initiative. Also, again, being from Little Rock, my birthday was yesterday, and my mom called me and she said, do you feel old yet? And I just turned 36, hold the applause. And I thought about it, and I got to tell my mom, no, I actually feel so much younger and maybe even look a little younger than most people, friends my age. And it's because I am constantly active, outdoors, healthy, and moving. And so that's why I think it's really important to give that same opportunity to all of the citizens of Little Rock and include in tourism here in Little Rock. We've got a beautiful natural resource that flows through our backyard. We have wonderful trails, and I think if we can build that up, promote it, it will make a huge difference for Little Rock locals and anyone that travels to our beautiful city. So thank you very much, and come out on the river with me or the bike trail and see it for yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you.
Mrs. Carrie Carr.
My name is Carrie Carr. I am in West Little Rock, Cappy's district. Again, I have no problem, like a lot of people, $200 extra a year. But these concerns that I'm hearing from these residents that have already spoken, they really trouble me. And I'm going to have my friend speak a little bit more about that. Again, I have the funds necessary to pay another $200, which a lot of people do. But these concerns that I'm hearing, I'm hearing them over and over. And I would like to talk more about that, including this young woman right here.
Well, we got to...
Yep, Cynthia.
What's her name?
Her name is Cynthia.
Ms. Martinez? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Cynthia Martinez, and I am a citizen taxpayer here of Little Rock. I live on the border of Ward 2 and Ward 7, so I can experience a little bit of both. I am here asking for funds to be reallocated to the cities, to life-saving or life-affirming institutions. Thank you all for modeling what it looks like to reallocate funds from one department to another. That's what you spent the first part of this meeting doing. Thank you for modeling that for us. Thank you for showing us that it is possible to add an amendment. It is possible to change the budget. But also, like Director Wick mentioned, Southwest is neglected. So many of the parks that we have are shut down completely, absolutely do not have bathrooms that are available. The grass doesn't even get cut. If you go to the park, I'm spacing on the name, but there's this pond, and you feel so sad for the ducks that are in this really pathetic amount of water that is dirty and filled with so much trash. But the community members still go out there and they pick up the trash, and they shouldn't have to. When $95 million are going to police, how does that make sense? Again, you showed us what it looks like to move money from one department to another. And I'm here because closed mouths don't get fed, right? And I strongly believe that taxpayers have the right to be included in this, have the right to say, our community does not stand by this. Our community does not need more police. The fact that our current City of Little Rock budget has, the police receive 27.4%. And at first you think, that's not too much, right? That's fine. But then you realize housing and neighborhood programs only receive 2.4%. And we wonder why we see so many homeless people walking the streets, unable to have and unable to be able to even get on a housing wait list because the lists are so long. I have seen so many kids who didn't sign up for preschool and elementary school in time. They're all maxed out, they're all at capacity, and they have to sit out a whole entire year of education that they don't receive because there aren't enough programs for them to be able to enroll. That is the reality of what it's like to live here in Little Rock. And it has blown my mind because I am someone who grew up in Northwest Arkansas. I know what it's like to live inside the bubble and have resources and have a Fortune 500 company to pour into, but we don't have that here, right? And there's a reason for it. But so it is unfair, and I'm speaking as a taxpayer, that I do not want, I'm on the record, I do not want my taxpayer money to go to a police department that is trained by Israel. So where is that taxpayer money really going? When we know, and there is on record, that the Arkansas Police Department is trained by Israeli forces that are currently killing children and babies in Gaza. And it's the same tactics that were used to start the 2020 uprisings. All right, so we've seen it. We've all seen the video, right? Live. It is unacceptable that our budget looks like this today, and it is unacceptable that you are asking for $95 million more on top of this budget. We're not talking about messing with the Little Rock budget, but we wish, right? But no, we're talking about you giving $95 million more on top when, are you kidding me? Parks and Recreation receives 3.6%, and I just saw y'all reallocate and moving funds from that, right? So it's not just what I believe, it's what I'm standing up for. It's not just my personal opinion, it's what we're organizing for, because this meeting, the fact that it was held more like during working hours, so many people that we tried to yes, I want to be there, but this is happening during working hours. This was happening without very much publication. Everybody I talked to, oh, I didn't know this was going on. I didn't know this was going on. There's obviously a need for transparency in this city. And I will wrap this up by saying thank you for not having uniformed police present at this meeting. This is my first and only city board of director meeting where the place has not been every single corner, cars all over the parking lot. This is the first and only meeting that I have ever been to where I have not been policed by the Little Rock Police Department when I am trying to actively engage and be a part of the city. So I know that these changes are possible. You've shown me. Please act on the power that you have. Please know that, we're gonna be running these campaigns against y'all because it's clear that if this passes and you keep prioritizing the police, this is what, we have already record. This is 2023. What is 2024 gonna look like? Thank you.
Mr. Larry Hicks. Mr. Larry Hicks. We'll go to Jason Bradley now.
Good evening. I tell you, y'all have put me behind some powerful speakers, I said. So I'm up to say what I can. I'm Jason Bradley, co-founder of Beyond Sports Lab. I believe in community. About our organization, Beyond Sports Lab, is about the kids, providing opportunities for kids. With that being said, youth sports is a billion-dollar industry. My girls cheer. My business partner, Jerry Bruce, his daughter is in gymnastics. We travel. I coach Little League football. Those kids, I think mentioned in that low income, they travel. They go to Dallas. They go to Mississippi. They go to Louisiana. They travel. They spend their money in those communities. Why am I here? I'm excited about you guys talking about an indoor facility, I'm gonna say that, baseball complex. We have recently partnered with Perfect Game USA, which is the largest elite youth platform when it comes to baseball. If you wanna be anybody in baseball and sports, you have to go through the Perfect Game channel. And they are not in Arkansas. So my partner Jerry Bruce and myself are the official Arkansas directors of that tournaments. And we're looking for a facility right now as we speak in my email today. So we have visited Interstate Park, some other parks around Arkansas over the last couple of weeks, but we can't find any parks that meet the PG standard. I'm gonna say that. So we're gonna have to go outside of Little Rock. But we wanna be in Little Rock because it's the state capital, but our hands are tied at the moment. But I believe in passing this 1 cent tax will give those kids opportunity to be at home rather than going to Mississippi or where we travel, going to Texas and travel. Well, again, we spending our tax dollars. We're traveling. We're paying for the hotels. We're paying for the food. We're paying for everything. And there's a lot of families, underserved families that do it weekly, on a weekly basis. So I think somebody mentioned about creating jobs. With those facilities, it help create jobs. With tournaments, it help create jobs. I can't say as much as I'm about the community. I have kids in the community, and being able to be a part of that billion-dollar industry, everybody is getting their fair share of the youth sports industry except Little Rock. I see it. I'm in it. I live it. My daughter's here. I said, we going to Pensacola, Florida. We going to, where else we going? We going to Branson, Missouri. So I see it. Our kids need quality fields here in Little Rock. Yeah, we can go up the street here, and yes, we can go up the street here, but why not just keep it right here at home where the tax dollars stay right here in the city of Little Rock? Again, me and my partner Jerry Bruce, we believe in the community, but you need some type of funding. I believe in supporting the community programming. I believe it, but if you don't have funding, you have nothing. So again, I'm talking in real time right now when it comes to looking for a facility right now, as I speak. But we're looking to do a tournament in September, so that means we got to go outside of Little Rock to host that tournament. But again, we want to be right here in the state of in the state capital where we make a big economic impact. I had a friend stays in South Haven, Mississippi. He moved there, I'm gonna say 20 years ago. And if you ever been there, it's night and day when it comes, and Perfect Game is in that city. They have built up that whole community. So again, just in real time, Perfect Game is in the state of Arkansas. Beyond Sports is here. We want to be able to support whoever we can support. We want to be able to partner up with whoever we want to partner up. Any organization that's about the kids, that's about creating opportunities, getting exposure, and our kids are not getting the right exposure. They got to go to Texas to get the right exposure. They got to go to Chicago to get the right exposure. They got to go to New Orleans to get the right exposure. I believe that just right here, there's a lot of opportunity just right here in the city of Little Rock, because I think everybody's going to benefit with the facility and the community. We need quality facilities for these kids to grow and develop and get the right training as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sean Woods.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor and the board, citizens. I had a specific thing I want to talk about, but one thing I want to say to my community is, why are we all up here talking about business? What we talking about when we say reallocate funds from the police, we talking about mental health issues. So something that's tangible, some solutions, because we saw what happened to Sandra Massey when she needed help. The police showed up when she needed mental help, some support, and instead she got a bullet to the face. That's why a lot of the stuff that we allocate for is to take some of the funds from the police department. 95 million is a lot of money, but you only got 2% for housing. I don't even know what the FLT acquisition and materials are. Maybe we should have been at some of the meetings so we'll know who these people are that are getting our money. But the main thing is what we need is solutions, because we need the taxes to build up different facilities, because I'm also a youth coach. I coach the Southwest Saints. I'm in Southwest Director of Work, and you think I don't want a facility? We need football indoor facilities so when it rains and storms so we can play, but yet and still, I would never ask for money for that before I ask for money for mental health, because people are being killed because they need help. They've been on drugs all their life. A lot of these people that's having mental issues came up in the 90s with the crack epidemic, where they were not allowed help. And now they are paying the brunt of the price. Like my sister said, the middle class, the lower class, we're gonna pay all the taxes. The upper class is gonna benefit from it. And then we don't even have full respect from the people on the board. I saw one of the directors get up while Dawn was talking and go talk to somebody else to interrupt her. I'm like, what are you showing us? But then my sister said, we saw y'all reallocate some money in front of us. Right in front of us, like we wasn't sitting here. We don't matter. So when we do vote and we get to removing y'all from office, don't think it was what we did. You made us do it. We don't want to do it. We all need taxes. We all want Little Rock to be the greatest city in America. But how can we do that when our leaders don't even show respect enough to give us a chance to say, well, we want our money to go, period. All these people get up here talking about business. I understand youth sports. I understand it, but how about let's teach our children how to farm and live independent? We need programs like that. Community gardens. A mental health tactical unit where if a police officer gets there and you see this person is having a problem, you have another solution. You don't even have to handle that. Call this, their whole job, their whole budget is to come and take care of people who are having a mental issue. And they won't have to end up with a bullet or arrested or more bills. They're already in debt. They can't do nothing. So no, we're not saying that we wouldn't vote for a tax. We're just saying, can you put the tax money where we want it at. And the police getting $95 million more is not it. I've been a victim of police violence. I've seen it. The mayor knows me. He knows Don. Director Hines knows me. He walked out on me before. So we're not tripping. We're just saying, listen to the people, because without the people, you're not even where you are right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Woods. Royal Moore. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. I apologize.
Good evening, everyone in the room. Like he said, or more. My concerns are the taxes that already been increased. Where have they been allocated to? I'm not sure the people concerned are looking at their bills to see all the taxes that we already paid locally, foreign taxes, places we never been is getting a tax. But you want us to pay more taxes. That is not the solution. If you think about what you're doing with the money, take shelters. If you take that money from the shelters that you're allocating to, that people can go to, but they have to leave and not guaranteed to get that same seat, that same bed, then you can infrastructure homes for them. If you want crime to stop, like Wood said, get involved with families, with the mental issues. Because the mental issues problem is mostly because of our leaders. You study taking money from people that don't have, and they can't interact with their children because they have to work to survive. So think about that. You understand? Think about the double taxation that we already go through. We're paying taxes on pre-owned cars. Where is that money being allocated to? You have your governor sending friends on trips. Why can't she pay towards it? And buying unnecessary, it's no need. You're putting your money in the wrong places. And you need to give it to the right communities. We can't even call it a community because it's really not there. It's just people that are struggling, trying to make a community. And they're afraid because there's no help for the people that need help. They're afraid to help them, and they need help. So put your money where it needs to go. And the police, no, public servants, let's try to get them from shooting everybody and find out what's going on. Nobody wants to do that. Maybe you need to put some more money in the mental health environment so we can get them evaluated and see how we can rectify the issues at hand, you know? Because we know you're not trying to do anything to get the drugs off the street. They keep coming back from the police. What you trying to give $95 million to clean up what? To put it back? So you can keep killing certain classes of people and ask questions when others look different? If you cannot figure this out, then the people just need to stand up and take their power and stop paying you, and you pay for it. Because obviously your pay needs to be deducted. You're living comfortable, and you tell us to steal from Peter to pay Paul. What sense does that make? We want to be able to survive and have stability as well, and we want to be able to interact with our children. But you prevent that by increasing unnecessary taxes, and we don't know where the money is actually going that you already confiscated. So make that make sense. Make the police that don't supposed to be called the police do their due diligence, and that's not to come out and shoot somebody. That is not the purpose of them. If not, we need to fire them and go back to the old way. You know, the Black Panthers did a lot without money of taxes, and you got rid of that. So let's look things over, because I stand for the people, and I don't care what color you look like. Whatever your skin tone is, we all come from one source. So if we can't put our heads together and figure this out, you all will be gone. Thank you.
Lisa Patton.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Payton, and I am here on behalf of the Museum of Discovery, and specifically to voice our support for the sales tax, which we believe will provide a huge boost for the museum and downtown Little Rock and for the city of Little Rock as a whole. An allocation of this tax to the museum would enable us to expand our programming for lower income residents and offerings to Title I schools, such as free field trips and outreach educational visits. And we also think another opportunity for this sales tax is funding the development of the city park as the outcome of the I-30 crossing project, where 18 acres is going to become available. Those 18 acres just happen to be right outside of our front door. And so we've already been in conversations with the Little Rock Parks Department about our role in helping with the development of that end of the park. And we have committed to doing free demonstrations and activities on a regular schedule to the park to give residents a chance to experience the museum. And again, that would all be free of charge and an opportunity for Little Rock residents to experience the Museum of Discovery. So we think that the sales tax initiative would definitely have a positive impact on the museum. But we also think it would have a positive impact on downtown Little Rock and the city of the city of Little Rock as a whole. So we want to voice our support for the sales tax, and then we want to encourage fans of the museum to support the sales tax as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Coffee Davis, is it Coffee? My apologies.
And you know how to say my name. It's Coffee Davis.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
No problem. How's everyone doing tonight? I am Coffee Davis, and I am an advocate here. I know many of you up there and out here, and I came to speak about the reallocation of the funds. One of the things that's frustrating about coming to spaces like this is that everyone in the room knows the disparities. And willful ignorance is a safeguard against having to face the reality. All you have to do is walk out of this building, either make a right or a left, and you can see the disparities. You go one way, you're going to see something, and you go another way, you're going to see something totally different. But everyone in here acts as if they don't know. Everyone in here is speaking of luxuries, about traveling, about where they moved from. I moved from out of state. I moved here more than 20 years ago, actually. I had my children here, one of them. I got married here, bought a home here, bought transportation here, and I know about that double taxation. But everyone in here acts as if they don't understand what the other half of the room is saying in terms of where those funds are being allocated. Everyone acts like they don't know what it's like, and maybe they don't. Maybe you have the luxury of walking out of your house and seeing a sidewalk. Maybe you have the luxury of going to a park and not seeing feces in the bathroom where you're trying to take your children to use the bathroom, and you decide to just go ahead and use it on the side of the building because that's better than what you see in the restrooms, in the parks. Maybe you have the luxury of thinking about facilities and beautifying an area and making downtown beautiful, or having a Netflix account. Maybe you have those luxuries. Maybe you have $200 plus in disposable income. Maybe you have disposable time where you can walk into a space like this in the middle of the day, and you don't have a job where you make minimum wage and your boss won't let you off work, and you pay the same taxes, but yet you can't go outside your house and ride your bike in your neighborhood. You have to take your bike and somehow find a way to go to another neighborhood. I live in Ward 2, by the way. I forgot to mention that. But maybe you don't have that luxury of having your kids walk outside their home and see a sign that says crossing, and see red lights and crosswalks. Maybe you can actually walk outside your house and you have healthy places to eat. You don't have to go to a fried, diet, laid to the side place that's poisoning your body and poisoning your neighborhood. Maybe you have a grocery store that's 5 miles down the street. And so we can sit in here and we can act like we don't see what goes on the other side of town, but I'm here to stand in that gap because there are people that can't attend these meetings. They're not just not coming because they don't care. They can't attend them. They don't have childcare. They work a job that won't let them off, and if they get off one more time, they're fired. And they barely make enough money. They're sharing Netflix accounts. So when I hear people talking about those kind of things, I'm like, where do they live? Because although I've overcome a lot of those things, most of them, I still know what it feels like to not have an extra $200. But most of us sitting up here, either you don't know, or you've forgotten, or you're willfully ignorant, because it's better to forget, because then you don't have to think about the little people. You don't have to think about that. But I spend my days with my boots on the ground, going from community center to community program, who oftentimes to get mental health services for the kids or mindfulness or anything, any of those services, they have to be donated. So people like me come in and we donate services like that, because we know that policing doesn't work, especially when you have a community that has dealt with not just generational trauma, but historical trauma, who've dealt with community trauma, who can't call the police. We don't have to look so far away and look at Sonia Massey to look at what happens when somebody a person that's having a mental health crisis calls the police, because we can look right here in 2010, right? All you gotta do is Google it, and if you Google it, it's gonna populate so many names, but there's one in particular that's a landmark case that we all know about that happened in 2010, where he was sitting in his own living room. He was shot from outside his door, right here in our neighborhood. But to get mental health services and some of the programs that I go to, that I spend every day here in Little Rock going to, I have to donate those services, and all my comrades, all my peers, to be able to provide resources out to the community, like community baby showers for people who can't afford to buy diapers and stuff. We have to pull together when you have $95 million. But we have to pull together. I have to take stuff from that was donated and create a system where we can donate to each other. But you have $95 million that you could easily reallocate some of those funds to provide services to places like the Village Place, who spends every single day, providing opportunities for young people to get off the street so that we don't have to have a lot of policing. Because policing is not just about running in somebody's house and shooting them in the face. Shouldn't be about that at all. It's about making sure that the community has what they need. Making sure that not that they have the luxuries of rafting and all the other things that was mentioned, but that they have their basic needs met. That their community looks like your community. So before we can cast a stone and say, well, they just don't care, and that's why their community looks like that. I know a whole lot of people who care, they just don't have the opportunities. But guess what? That little minimum wage job that they work, that prevents them from coming here, that little minimum wage job that they have that we look down on, the essential workers that we all held up as heroes during the pandemic, still gets taxed. Still gets taxed. Just like that, what was the median income that was mentioned? $60,000. I don't even know anybody to make $60,000 within the communities that I work in. Not the little people, not the people that I serve on a continuous daily basis. They're not making that. Matter of fact, I'm not just talking about the poor. I'm talking about like the working poor. They're not making that. But they don't qualify for assistance. They don't qualify for assistance. Because somehow that bar manages to be so low. So anyway, a lot of the programs that I work at, one of them, the primary drug threat here in Arkansas, I was working on that program. There was grant money for that, but that got cut. That got cut. So I'm here to just ask and to request that the funds be reallocated to more community programs, more prevention programs, more help, safer communities, prevention, intervention programs, community programs. And if we could just take a moment to reflect on what it's like on the other side of the track, what it's like on the right side of the street instead of that way, and just use our consciousness and our humanity to reallocate those funds and do what's best for the community, not just our part of the community, but the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coffin. Benjamin Harrison, and thank you, Ms. Davis.
Good afternoon. I live in Ward 3. My name is Benjamin Harrison. And I think what's probably the most interesting thing about the conversation around public safety and funding the police is how little of what the police do actually involves crime. The defund the police movement that happened in Denver in 2020, where they were actually in court trying to defund the Denver PD. What they found was that the police department there, only about 20% of what they did actually involved crime, right? Obviously, a much smaller amount of that is violent crime, okay? So I think when we think about what the police do, public safety, like that phrase that is very much used as a political tool, is misleading. And I think when you talk about policing, what you really need to understand is the history of policing. Like, why did police come into existence? How did police come into existence? I think probably one of the main things, probably most people know this, is that police came out of the slave catching trade, right? And I think if you want to put it in a modern context to see how the police are still doing a lot of the things that they were created to do, all you have to look is about 6 months ago, ConAgra Foods, Wendy's, Popeyes, McDonald's, Walmart, a lot of these companies were caught using prison labor, like actually getting prison labor out of the prisons so that they could pay less than minimum wage to try to keep their products more affordable and their services. We have the largest prison population in the world, in the United States. And in Little Rock, I believe our police department's about 70% white, but you're about twice as likely to be arrested for a nonviolent, low-level crime if you're black. Another founding principle of the police, one of the reasons that they came into existence, was to get homeless people out of public spaces. And we know that our police department still does that. You don't really have to look very far. A double amputee man had all of his belongings thrown into a dumpster here in Little Rock. And this happens regularly, where we just throw away all of the belongings of somebody who has basically nothing, right? And just send them down the road. Mayor Scott's on his phone. Another thing about homelessness is that homelessness was up 12% last year, right? And we know that unemployment is actually up. Mayor Scott uses misleading numbers on unemployment. But we're all kind of not very far. I mean, we're talking about how some people aren't making that median income, right? So I think a lot of us are closer to homelessness than we think. And the police are there to kind of, enforce keeping you working, keeping you doing things, because if they give some people free housing, it's going to be a problem for the people who own houses. Another big reason that the police came into existence was to break up strikes. Originally, if you had a strike and you wanted to send in the military, you had the complication that the military might side with the workers, and then you'd have a much bigger problem. So you needed a separate political bureaucracy that wouldn't side with the workers, right? And if you want that in a modern context, we had students all across this country over the last 6 months, 9 months, 10 months since October 7th, right, protesting. What they were doing, what these students were doing, was essentially collectively bargaining for democratic power in their universities. And what we saw in mass, right, we know 99+% of these protests on these campuses were peaceful, but what we saw was these police coming out and brutalizing these students, right? A militarized police officer with a baton, a helmet with a visor and body armor beating the crap out of a 19-year-old girl, right? And that's not even an anecdote, it was just happening a lot, and we saw it. So I think that if you want to think about breaking up a strike, you have to think about it in terms of organizing in the community, organizing on your campus, organizing in your workplace, right? For power, right? I also think a big part of what police do is asset forfeiture. We know the National Asset Forfeiture Program, police stole more property from American citizens than actual thieves did last year. And if you add that to the $1.65 billion that police collected in fees and like tickets just in the last 10 years in Arkansas, yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of money that the police department's getting from us. And I think not only should you not give them this funding, you should take away a lot of their funding. And I was in a really bad car accident in 2020, and the police officer gave me a ride home, right? So I understand that there is like a protective element of policing, but he didn't need to be a cop to do that.
Miss Kathy Wells.
Good evening, Mayor Scott and City Board. I'm going to pass and make no comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wells. Members of the City Board, we've now heard all the commentary for these items. Madam Clerk, we've had 3 readings. We'll now call for the vote. We'll do it individually. Before we go for the vote, any questions, concerns from members of the City Board? Ms. Miller, are you raising your hand?
No.
Oh, I saw you moving. We've already read item number 4. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Present.
Ayes have it with 1 present.
Director Adcock, would you like to change your vote?
Item number 5, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Item number 6 has been read. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it
Present.
with 1 present. On item number 7, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. There's also an emergency clause
On 4, 5, 6, and 7.
on 4, 5, 6, and 7. This gives us to take it to the clerk. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Present.
Ayes have it with 1 present. We did it for each one in assimilation, but we'll, for the record, we'll do. All those in favor for emergency clause for item number 4, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Item number 5, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Item number 6, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Item number 7, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Would you say parliamentarian?
Yeah, you need 8 votes for the emergency clause. And if I'm counting right, with Director Richardson absent and Director Adcock voting present.
We got 9. We got 8 still.
Okay,
We got 1, 2,
I was miscounting.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8. All have been passed. Thank you so much, members of the City Board. We'll now transition. We'll adjourn and then swiftly, like 2 seconds swiftly.
Move to adjourn the meeting, Mayor.
All those favor, well, before we go to the adjournment, you had a question?
Yeah, I have my hand up. I just wanted to recognize, I'm always grateful for citizens to come and be involved in the process, whether you were for or against it. I want to thank you for being here and sharing your point of view. We do hear you. I don't want people to leave here and think that their voice has not been heard. So I wanted to acknowledge that publicly. And to those who have questions or concerns about our budget going forward, I'm happy to meet with whoever, whenever, to discuss this. So I just wanted to say that publicly to my friends that was in the room that I know and went to school with, hung out with, who are against this. I want to spend time with you to talk about this and how we can get you understanding what we're doing and get your support going forward. So I wanted to say that, Mayor. That's all I had.
All right, there was a motion for adjournment, and then the second, mind you, we're going right back into the agenda meeting, though. There's a motion, there's a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned. Agenda meeting has just now started. Any questions on the agenda?
There's a presentation.
Can we,
You okay?
May want to. For the, do we want to read the proclamation? Is that's it? We'll just read the proclamation?
Yes.
Before we do that, I can read that at the end. Well, whereas the city of Little Rock acknowledges the growing environmental challenges posed by plastic pollution, which affects our waterways, wildlife, and communities, and whereas single-use plastics contribute significantly to waste and pollution, with tons of plastic ending up in our local Fush Creek watershed, Arkansas River system, our city parks, roadways, and landfills every year, and whereas reducing plastic consumption and increasing recycling efforts are crucial steps towards sustainable living and the preservation of natural resources for future generations. And whereas the city of Little Rock strives to lead by example by passing a resolution in 2018 prohibiting the purchase of expanded polystyrene foam products, aka styrofoam, and services with city funds. And whereas the city of Little Rock gladly supports the ongoing conservation work of our sustainability office and the Little Rock Zoo and their initiatives that promote environmental stewardship by providing resources and recommendations to the community to help reduce single-use plastic waste at home, work, and play. And whereas Plastic Free July is a campaign that is observed annually across the United States and in many global communities to raise awareness about the overuse of plastics and the impact of plastic pollution of human, wildlife, and environmental health. Now, therefore, I, Frank Scott Jr., Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim July 24th Plastic Free July.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, for reading the proclamation. We've worked hard this month on Plastic Free July campaign to raise awareness about plastic overconsumption that then ends up in our waterways, AKA litter. And so we've all seen that. So this was to raise awareness, and it goes until August 5th. Check us out at littlerock.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions on the consent items 1 through 12? Director Wired?
Can I get a report on item number 5? What it's doing?
John,
Woodland Trail Turn Lane Project.
is John here?
John? Leland, you can get John or Grant or Manish. They may have just walked out thinking the meeting was over. While we wait on that, what's the next question? Director Adcock, did you have a question on another item?
I have a question on item, I'd like to have a presentation on item 18 and 19.
Okay, we'll get to that in short order. John, if you'll speak to item number 5. Director Wire, what was your question?
Hey, John, we've met a couple of times with neighborhoods out there, Canis, Woodlands Edge, all that, and this is doing a project at Canis and Woodlands Trail. What are we doing here?
So if you'll remember, we put in that traffic signal at that intersection.
Yeah.
And once we got the signal in, we noticed in order to have better traffic flow through that particular section, Canis is unimproved. But there is a couple of sections that are improved. I think it's just east of where the intersection is. So we're actually going to do a little additional pavement widening in that area, and that's what this project is, to allow for a left turn lane to try to get some of those left turn movements out of the flow of traffic at that signalized intersection.
That's a good thing, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Andrea, this is you.
I'm all
your
for it.
area.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Adcock, did we get all your questions?
No, I need a presentation on 18, please.
Okay, we'll get through. Does anybody have any other additional questions on the consent agenda? If not, we'll move to the planning and development.
Vice Mayor, there is a chance that the settlement agreement that was deferred will be on consent for Tuesday night.
Correct.
Thank you, Attorney Carpenter. Okay, on items 13 through 16, I would like to have item number 15 voted on separately. Moved Thank you. Director Adcock.
Item 18. I'd like for you to show the maps on those also.
Excuse me, ma'am?
Show the maps.
Okay, Ally, could you? Oh, sorry. Someone show the maps up there. So number 18, Z6911-A. The applicant is requesting that the 19.78 acre property located on the south side of Baseline Road be rezoned from I-1 Industrial Park District to PCD, Planned Commercial District or Development, to allow for the mixed-use commercial development located in Ward 7. The Planning Commission voted 10-0 with 1 absent. Staff recommends approval. This was deferred since last month. I know that there has been some meetings with the applicants. I let them know some of the questions that were brought up to me from some of the directors about alcohol sales, and the elevations are included in the board write-ups.
I need to have the map put on here, the location. This has got, it's look like it's a circus or something. It's got all these different uses in this one little square piece of property, which is a large piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't understand why they're cramming so much down in one little area. And the properties don't seem to match up. There's a little bit of everything for everyone. Do we not have the maps?
They're on the screen.
There it is. Okay, it's on this one. Okay. So would you explain what's going in on this one little piece of property?
So there are several things that are going in on this piece of property here, ma'am. There's a food truck court. There's a concession area for that. There's RV storage. There is a ghost kitchen, which would be available to anyone in the community that would want to use that if they had maybe a food truck themselves and didn't have the kitchen in which to do that. I think it would be shared by anyone in the community, and there would be mini storage. So it is multi-use. You are right. There are a lot of uses that are being proposed at this site.
Okay, in talking to the applicant on this, I asked about, was they following all of the requirements on food trucks to start with? They was not aware that food trucks cannot be left on site overnight. Food trucks have to have a separate thing to collect the waste in, the oils and everything. Food trucks cannot be hooked up to a city sewer line. Have they made arrangements with all the things that was pointed out to them?
They have not given me any indication that.
Okay, so that's all out of compliance. When we have the community kitchen here, how are we going to be assured that all health requirements are met on that? Because as Kathy can tell us, as well as other people who have restaurants, there's lots of rules and regulations to preparing food for the community.
Absolutely. Certainly they would have to abide by all state health laws. So the health department would be involved in anything that food preparation, like any normal restaurant or any food truck would have to go through.
Do we have any way of knowing that the people preparing this food are going to have health cards and have contacted the health department?
They would
When I
have.
talked to them last week, they did not know there was going to be any requirements by the state health department.
Well, there certainly would be, and I would recommend that they look up all state
Well, I have a
rules
real
governing
problem
this.
of us voting on something that we're just taking people's word that they're going to check into or they're going to do it. I would feel better knowing that it's going to be safe for people. So the storage buildings, now they're also going to store large RV campers, large pieces of equipment and everything on there.
Yes, ma'am.
Most of the time when we have that type of storage, we have requirements of the pavement and how they're going to be parked and everything. And here again, in talking to them last week, they had not known there was going to be any requirements. They could just pull them in there and park them if they're leaking gas and oil. This has got a creek running down the side of it. So in case of rain or anything, this property will wash into that creek. So have they told you of any precautions they're going to be protecting the creek?
They have not indicated any precautions protecting the creek, ma'am.
Okay, and they was going to have an outside pavilion that groups, churches, other music groups could come in and set up. We have 2 churches right beside this property,
Yes.
one on one side and one on the other side, and I know that they both have stated that they did not like all this music going on weekends when they're trying to have services. Has that been addressed?
They have not addressed that with the planning commission, and that was not brought up during approval process.
Mayor, I would like to ask that this not be voted on by us until all of these federal and state requirements are met.
And I would ask Mr. Carpenter, how many times can an item be deferred? Because this has been deferred once
Well,
by the city, right?
I think we deferred it the first time.
Yes.
The city can defer an item for a reasonable period of time to get questions answered. The questions that have been raised here for one meeting would be a reasonable period of time.
Okay.
And I would like to request that we defer this again until all state and federal regulations and city regulations are answered. Thank you.
And can we make that, I think there has to be a date certain.
Yeah, but
We're not in session.
yeah, I don't, Tom, as I understand, we can only defer one time. That's correct or not? How many times can we?
The board can defer a matter for a reasonable period of time if there's a legitimate concern on the part of the board. The concerns that were raised here were who's going to make sure that the health department's involved in the cooking.
We're not in session, so we have to do that.
Yeah, you'll do the deferral next Tuesday. You can't do it tonight, but I just took it as you're saying you're going to ask that it be deferred.
So on August the 6th, she'll ask to be deferred, but in Director Adcock, if you could, on August the 6th, come with a date certain. We have to have a date certain.
Mayor Scott, I do not know what date they'll have acquired all those permits and everything, because right now, they have not checked with the state or anyone on the rules and regulations that they need to follow.
Director Adcock, if I may, I think what you would be doing is deferring until the next meeting with the proviso that they show they have either applied for or have the permits and demonstrate that fact. And if they don't, then the board's in a position to deny the application.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that the applicants are present here tonight, so they're hearing everything that's being said. So I'm sure that they will provide all the necessary information.
Thank you.
So much, Director Wired.
Thank you, Mayor. Brad, please do not go.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
How's your knee?
It's been better.
Good. I met with the applicant and a couple of residences last week and found out the screen's taken down where it shows the sketch, but it shows a 600 square foot restroom, storage, and that really is set up for liquor sales. It's kind of next to where the food trucks are.
Yeah, it's at the very
Oh.
top left side of the property. It's where the restrooms are, and it says, I think it says concession restrooms.
The question is, did the staff know that that's what that was for, that it was a concession stand for liquor sales?
For liquor sales, no. We knew it was for general concessions. They never indicated to us that there would be liquor sales. Again, they would have to go through the state process with the ABC to get any sort of permit to
It's my
serve alcohol.
understanding that, that they can't be within 1,000 feet from a church or school, and they share a boundary with Little Rock Church on the west side.
It is directly next to it, yes, ma'am.
They also talked about having events, musical events, acoustic guitars, those kinds of things. Would that be a part of a PCD, or does that require another type of zoning?
It would be a part of this PCD. I think that,
Would it not need to be identified and specified? Because the PCD identifies all the things that are within that zoning area.
right.
Would we not have known about that?
I think that generally we did know that they would be having events there, whether they're having acoustic guitars, they didn't specify that. I will say that they do have to buffer between residential, which the church is an R2 property, and this property, so there will be some sort of buffering along that side. So that might negate.
Next door, the Little Rock Church is R2?
It is.
All right, well, this doesn't show a fence around it, but I know there's been a quiet handshake agreement between Little Rock Church and the applicant to fence the whole area.
Right.
I'm assuming the 19 point whatever acres there.
They would certainly have to do it between any residential property.
So the reason I was bringing that up is because if he's agreed to do that with the Little Rock Church, shouldn't it be specified in this PCD that he's going to do that? Shouldn't that be a matter of record for what we're approving?
I think that the applicant would have to say that, certainly, but for the plan development, fences go up around those all the time that aren't necessarily voted on
And then
during the approval process.
back to the food trucks. Director Adcock brought up the regulations that we have for food trucks today. And they can't be permanent. They can't be hooked up to, I guess, sewer and water. Does that really apply for what he's doing here? Does that regulation?
For this plan development, the way I understand it, and the applicants can, when they're given their opportunity to speak, the way that the planning commission and planning staff understood it, that the food trucks would be permanent and they would be rented out as slots.
Okay, so her argument in regards to they have to leave every day
Right.
doesn't fit with what this development is proposing.
That's true. And there are developments around the city that have the same requirements, that they've gone through the process, their food trucks, they're there on a permanent basis because they're part of that plan development. Any normal food truck, they would have to abide by any peddler's agreement that the city has, and they couldn't be permanent. They couldn't stay in the same spot, stay in the same location day by day. But in this case, I believe that their plan development spells out permanent food trucks.
Well, I think that was part of what she was seeking in information, so I wanted to clarify that a little bit. Okay, so this is deferred until our next meeting? We're going to do it next Tuesday, defer it?
At the next meeting, on Tuesday night, you will vote to defer it until the meeting on the 20th.
Yes, thank you. We'll now transition. We'll go to, any more questions?
No, I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Phillips?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to highlight, I've shared this with, I think, most everyone on the board, but number 19 is an ordinance that was requested by restaurant owners. And just for clarification, this is just for restaurant on-premise sales on Sundays. Currently under our ordinance, restaurants are not supposed to start selling alcoholic beverages until 12 noon. Under state law, you can start at 10 a.m. So what this does is just make us compliant with state law that on Sundays, restaurants can sell alcohol beverage starting at 10 a.m. This is not opening it up where liquor stores can be open on Sundays. This is purely on-premise sale for restaurants. It's just merely moving it back from 12 noon to 10 a.m. So I just wanted to share that with the board and hope for a positive vote next Tuesday. And Mayor, I got one other question. If I read the agenda correctly, today is our last meeting in this building?
Yes, today's our last meeting in the building, and we'll have an open house from 4 to 6 p.m. on August the 6th for the community. We'll get some communication out on that. And then we'll have our first board meeting on August the 6th. On a big shout out to Susan Langley and all of her hard work and the entire team to get us there on time, on budget.
Florida.
Somebody's budget, right? But definitely on time. With some cost overruns. But we're grateful to be moving back. You guys are going to be very proud of the room, excited about it. And again, Madam Clerk Langley has done a phenomenal job in getting us here. So I want to shout out her. Director Adcock.
Yes, Director Phillips stated this would allow the beverages to be sold from 10 to 12. But when I look down here, it says 12 midnight. So it's not 2 hours. It's from 10 until 12 midnight.
Correct, Director Adcock, and I'm sorry for not clarifying that. Currently on the Little Rock Code, they can currently sell to midnight. So this doesn't this doesn't change the time they have to stop selling on Sundays, because you can currently sell them to midnight. What this does is change when they can start selling, which is at noon, and then this would move it from noon to 10 a.m. The stop time is midnight currently, and this amended ordinance does not affect that at all.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you for the question.
Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I have a request that we get the meeting for boards and commission appointments on the calendar soon, and we passed a new commission in March. And I'm getting a lot of calls asking when those appointments will be made, and so if we could get that on the agenda as soon as possible.
We'll get it as soon as possible.
Thank you.
That's my fault on that, so we'll get that food commission on as soon as possible. Any questions, concerns? Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.